Lettress, Skew, escort the gentleman to Nanelia's room. He's got a lot.
I was sitting on the couch with nothing to do, doom scrolling YouTube the way you do when you've given up on deciding what to watch and you're just letting the algorithm feed you. And there it was. Battle Beyond the Stars, 1980. Free in HD, with the original poster art as the thumbnail. I hadn't seen this film since I was a kid. Too long ago. I couldn't have told you a single plot point. What I remembered was the ships, and the villain with the deteriorating body, and the fact that the hero's spaceship had breasts. That last detail, I should warn you, is not a joke. We will come back to it. I watched the whole thing again. All 104 minutes. And here, honestly, is what I think. Battle Beyond the Stars is a Roger Corman production. It is a shameless Star Wars knockoff. It is also a shameless remake of The Magnificent Seven, which is itself a remake of Seven Samurai. It was made for about $2 million, which is roughly the catering budget of a single scene in a modern Marvel film. It has a screenplay by John Sayles, who would go on to become one of the most respected independent filmmakers in America. It has special effects designed by a young James Cameron 2 years before he directed the Terminator. It has an early score by James Horner, who would go on to do Titanic and Avatar, and who apparently liked some of this music so much he reused it for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That is a lot of talent for a movie that, on paper, sounds like a punchline. And the strange truth is, the talent shows Battle Beyond the Stars is not a good film by any serious critical standard. The acting is mostly wooden. The dialogue is frequently clunky. The plot is a photocopy of a photocopy. And yet, watching it again as an adult, I had more genuine fun than I have had with most of the $200 million blockbusters I've sat through this year. So let's talk about why. And before I do, a quick sidebar. YouTube, for all its problems, has become one of the great archives of mid-budget 20th century cinema. There are films on there, in HD, that you cannot find on any streaming service, that have never been issued on Blu-ray, that exist only because someone uploaded a decent transfer and the rights holder never bothered to take it down. Battle Beyond the Stars is one of them. If you grew up on a certain diet of cable TV and VHS, you can rebuild half your childhood on YouTube for free. It's worth doing. Some of it holds up. Some of it absolutely does not. Part of the fun is finding out which is which. This one, for the record, is somewhere in the middle. And that's a more interesting place to be than either extreme. What the film is about. The setup is the oldest one in the book. A peaceful farming planet called Akir is threatened by a tyrannical warlord named Sador, played by John Saxon, who chews the scenery with the relish of a man who knows exactly what kind of movie he's in. Sador's body parts are deteriorating, and he stays alive by stealing organs from conquered people. He gives the peaceful Akira 7 days to submit. The Akira are pacifists. They have no army. Their only hope is to hire mercenaries, but they have no money, only food and shelter to offer. So a young farmer named Shad, played by Richard Thomas, yes, John Boy from the Waltons, and yes, that is a strange piece of casting for a space opera, volunteers to take the old Corsair ship and go find help. What follows is essentially a recruitment montage. Shad collects fighters the way a video game protagonist collects party members. There's Cowboy, a space trucker from Earth, played by George Peppard. There's Gelt, a wealthy assassin played by Robert Vaughn, who literally reprises his role from the original Magnificent Seven, same character, different costume, outer space. There's Santex Meen of the Valkyrie, played by Sybil Danning, who is essentially a space Amazon in a metal bikini. There's Nestor, a set of 5 clones who share a single group consciousness because their entire race is bored and wants to be entertained. There's Cayman, a reptilian alien who joins the cause because he wants Sador's head. And there's Nanelia, the daughter of a cyborg scientist who pilots a weaponless ship with a very advanced computer. That's your 7. Sador comes back. The battle happens. Some of them die. Some of them live. You can probably guess which ones. The screenplay by John Sayles, who, I cannot stress this enough, is a serious writer, doesn't waste a single scene trying to convince you this is anything other than what it is. The pacing is genuinely excellent. Sador shows up, threatens the planet, and Shad is off recruiting within the first 15 minutes. By the halfway point, the team is assembled. The back half of the film is essentially one extended battle. In an era where modern blockbusters take 90 minutes just to set up who the characters are, this is a breath of fresh air. Peril for Mamses. Here's where I have to be honest, because the acting is the film's weakest link. Richard Thomas as Shad is fine. He plays the role with the same earnest, slightly baffled decency he brought to John Boy Walton, and the problem is that earnest, slightly baffled decency is not a particularly compelling lead for a space opera. You don't believe he's a warrior. You barely believe he's a pilot. It doesn't give the film a strong center. Robert Vaughn as Gelt is the best performance in the movie, and it's not close. Vaughn played the same basic character, the haunted gunslinger with a price on his head, in the magnificent 20 years earlier. He walks into this film, does the same thing, and walks out. He's the only actor who seems to understand that the trick to playing a B-movie is to play it completely straight. George Peppard as Cowboy is having fun. He's a space trucker with a cowboy hat and a drawl, and he leans into it with the energy of a man who knows this is ridiculous and has decided to enjoy it anyway. He's the most watchable person in the film after Vaughn. John Saxon as Sador's, and I say this with affection, a ham. A glorious, unapologetic ham. He delivers every line like he's auditioning for a Shakespeare production staged inside a meat locker. He snarls. He gloats. He makes threats about stealing organs with the relish of a man who has been waiting his entire career for a role this big. A subtle Sador would have been a disaster. Sybil Danning as Santegsmin is wearing what can only be described as a structural engineering project. She has maybe 12 lines. She is there to look spectacular and to kick ass, and she does both. The rest of the cast. Sam Jaffe as the cyborg doctor, Earl Bowen as the lead Nestor clone, Morgan Woodward as the reptilian Cayman, are all functional. Nobody embarrasses themselves. Nobody is great. It is a B-movie cast doing B-movie work, and the film does not ask them for more than that. Technical aspects. This is where the film earns its reputation. The special effects, designed by a 26-year-old James Cameron, are genuinely impressive for the budget. The ships are distinctive. You can tell them apart. Sador's flagship, the Hammerhead, looks like it could level a planet, which, in fact, it does. The model work is clean. The space battles have geographic coherence. You understand at every moment who is where and who is winning. Compare this to most modern blockbuster action, where the screen is a blur of particles, and you start to appreciate what Cameron pulled off for almost no money. The score by James Horner is one of the film's great assets. It is rousing, it is propulsive, and it is, as one Manapop commenter noted, so good that Horner basically reused chunks of it for The Wrath of Khan 2 years later. You can hear the DNA of his later, more famous work in this score. The cinematography is flat, which is the one technical element that genuinely lets the film down. Everything is lit like a television show. There is no mood, no atmosphere, no visual style. The film looks like it was shot on a soundstage because it was shot on a soundstage. And nobody tried to hide it. And then there is the ship. Shad's ship is shaped, and I am going to be blunt here, like a woman's torso, with breasts, with prominent, metal, breast-shaped protrusions on the front. The film is aware of this. The film leans into it. Roger Corman was not a man who let a marketing opportunity pass him by. It is the most 1980s thing in a film full of 1980s things, and it is, depending on your tolerance, either hilarious or exhausting. The honest verdict. So here is where I land. Battle Beyond the Stars is not a good film. The acting is wooden. The dialogue is clunky, the plot is a photocopy, the cinematography is flat. The hero's ship has breasts, and we all just have to deal with that. And yet, I had a great time watching it. And I think you might too. The reason is craft. The film was made by people who, whatever their budget constraints, knew what they were doing. John Sayles knew how to structure a story. James Cameron knew how to design a ship. James Horner knew how to write a score. John Saxon knew how to play a villain. Robert Vaughn knew how to do the thing he had been doing for 20 years. Nobody phoned it in. And when you get that level of craft, even at the B-movie level, the result is watchable in a way that a lot of more expensive, more serious films are not. The film currently sits at 5.5 on IMDb, 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 2.8 on Letterboxd. Those are fair numbers. It is not underrated. It is not overrated. It is rated exactly correctly. My honest number. 6 out of 10. Worth watching on a lazy evening when you've got nothing else to do and YouTube has put it in your feed. Worth watching for the James Cameron ships alone. Worth watching for Robert Vaughn. Worth watching for John Saxon's organ-stealing monologue, which is, I will say without irony, a better villain speech than anything in the last 3 Marvel films. And if you are my age and you saw this when you were 10 and you remember it being the greatest film ever made, it isn't. It never was. But it's not a disappointment either. It's a scrappy, weird, occasionally brilliant, frequently ridiculous B-movie that has somehow survived 45 years to land in HD for free on the same website where you watch cooking tutorials at 2 in the morning. That, in its own way, is a kind of victory.